What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right. You know, we got a real big pay-per-view coming up in March in Dallas, Texas with Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence. And the trainer for Errol Spence, Derrick James, said that he believes that Garcia is probably the best, most technical foe that Errol Spence has faced, which tells you that he absolutely positively is not underestimating Mikey Garcia. He goes on to talk about a couple other things, so I'm going to tell you what those are, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on it and the way that I think that the fight, why it's important for Errol Spence Jr. to think that way. Now, before I do that, I want to welcome you back to the channel. Thank you very much for subscribing if you are a subscriber. If you are not a subscriber, please accept my invitation to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified when we release videos. Also, I hope to see you all at our live streams that we do Monday through Friday right around 10:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right, so now the quote comes from an article by Lim Satterfield on boxingscene.com, and he says, go through what he said, talking about Mikey. He said, I know Mikey's smart, intelligent fighter, and it's obvious he knows there's a huge task ahead of him. He is doing everything he can to be successful. I think everything he's doing will help him, and I applaud him for all his efforts. Lamont Peterson, Kell Brook, and Chris Algeria were all great champions. Chris Algeria, obviously. But Mikey's more technical than all of those guys, and that's the difference. Mikey 100% believes in himself, and he's operating with a great resume. He's a very cerebral fighter who poses a threat like all the other guys. Obviously, they feel like they see something, and we're going to come in as the best Errol Spence possible. We're going to go out and showcase who we are and why people say the things that they say about us. Now, he goes on to talk about the people that he's sparring with and what he's doing to prepare. He says we're using guys who have great timing and guys who have size because the smaller guys can't deal with the power all of the time. So we have to try to match Garcia's technique and skill to the point where every time they think there's an opening to a door, we want to close all of the doors and make sure that they're shut and put a lock on it. Talking about his sparring partner, he said, if Errol's hurting somebody, I'll tell them to go back to jabbing more. It just depends on that day how he feels and whatever he wants to do. I remember there was a session where Errol hurt Rob's hand, talking about Rob Brandt. It was an overhand left from Errol, and Rob blocked it. The next day, Rob and I were working, and I was like, what's wrong with your hand? Rob said, it's a bruise. I'm like, what the heck? Now, Rob blocked the punch, but the power went through Errol's thick hand wraps and Errol's gloves and through Rob's gloves and his wraps. And we're talking about 16-ounce gloves and a punch that caused a bruise on his hand. That's how hard the punch was, and that's a great indication of how Errol applies that 147 pounds of pressure through his entire body into his fists that hurt opponents. Mikey's daring to be great. He wants to move up and try to dethrone me, and it's not going to happen. This is Errol talking, it's definitely not going to be an easy fight. He will be the number one pound for pound if he beats me, but it's not going to happen. I'm a 147 pounder. He's a 135 pounder, and there are weight classes for a reason. Mikey will be a challenging fight because he has great skills, but I see myself winning. I don't really see anything that concerns me. He's technically good. I'm technically sound too. I have speed and power, and I don't see him hurting me at 147, and I just see me winning the fight, period. Now, see, this is what I like, man. I like the fact that Errol Spence Jr. has confidence in himself, but I also like the fact that they're not acting, that they are preparing for a guy that's going to come in there and cause these and cause them problems, make them have, make adjustments and the like. Mikey Garcia, as far as Mikey Garcia, man, I got to tell you, I respect Mikey Garcia. I've done videos about the fact that I do not like this Victor Conte stuff because I think it's a bad look, right? And maybe that's just, that's just the old man. That's just the old man in me. Maybe it's just me, trying to act like too much of a daddy on people. But I just think that I think it's a bad look. I think it's a bad look for boxing. But that said, Mikey Garcia is going to come into this fight trying to do whatever he has to do to win the fight, in the preparation for the fight, in the fight itself. And I look forward to seeing a very, very good, entertaining fight. It's a pay-per-view fight. A pay-per-view fight that I'm willing to pay for. This year there's a lot of pay-per-views in the United States, and it seems like I'm going to be coughing up a good amount of money to watch them because, this is the second week, going into the second week of, just the end of the first. This is January 8th, right? So now we're talking about 9 weeks out. I think we're about 9 weeks out from the fight. So these guys' training camp should be starting in earnest. And I'm already excited and waiting on this fight to happen. It's going to be in Dallas. I think I might actually make the trip out there to go see the fight. Not always easy for me, man, because I work from home and my schedule just, got dog at me all day. But anyway, less about me, more about the fight. There's a lot of people that think that Errol Spence Jr. is just going to run through Mikey Garcia. That he's just too big. And one of the comments that I like, or I think illustrates that viewpoint the best, is what Andre Ward had to say about the fight. When Andre Ward was asked about Mikey Garcia, the fact that Mikey Garcia said that they see something, what he said was, yeah, I'm not buying that you see something stuff, because you can lay $1 in the middle of the street and you can see a truck coming and you can say, oh, let me grab that $1. But if that truck hits you, you're gone. So basically illustrating that, if you don't have the power to hurt somebody, if you don't really have the ability to keep some guy up off of you, in boxing, man, that's why they have weight classes. Now, in response to that, the people talk about the guys that Mikey Garcia has sparred, the guys that Mikey Garcia has hurt. The number one guy that people bring up is Marcus Maidana. Marcus Maidana. They say Marcus Maidana was sparring with Mikey Garcia. He was 175 pounds. Mikey Garcia is 135 pounds, 140 pounds, and Mikey Garcia got the best of Marcus Maidana in sparring. I don't see any comparison whatsoever between Marcus Maidana and Errol Spence Jr. And Marcus Maidana lost, I do believe Marcus Maidana lost to Devin Alexander at 140 pounds. Most of Marcus Maidana's career was spent fighting at 140 pounds. If Marcus Maidana was sparring Mikey Garcia at 175 pounds, it was because Marcus Maidana was fat. Period. Marcus Maidana is not a light heavyweight. Marcus Maidana is not a 168 pounder. Marcus Maidana is not a 160 pounder. He's not a 154 pounder. He's barely a 147 pounder. And quite honestly, he's a blown up 147 pounder to boot. Marcus Maidana spent maybe 2 years in the welterweight division. His biggest win of his career was Adrian Bronner. Other than that, man, he just, any other time he fought somebody that was top notch, he lost, right? I think after Adrian Bronner, the next couple best fights that he had, Josecito Lopez and Jesus Soto Corraz. But he's a good fighter, but he's not. I mean, he's a 140 pounder, man. So I don't really see. I don't really, and it's a sparring match, and he's not a southpaw, and he doesn't have he's awkward, but he doesn't have that type of body attack. And so, the sparring story with Marcus Maidana, I'm not so convinced that really means anything when you're talking about Errol Spence Jr. But I love the fact that Errol Spence Jr. and Derrick James are taking Mikey Garcia very seriously. I do think that this is a fight that, it can be very interesting, man. It could be interesting. Timing is going to be a really big thing, right? Timing is going to be a real big thing. He's going to try to see if he can catch Errol Spence Jr., stop Errol Spence Jr. from moving forward. Whenever Errol Spence takes a step forward, he's going to have something there waiting for him, right? And the question is that the first time that Errol Spence Jr. has had to deal with that? I don't think that it is. I think that Errol Spence is a southpaw that's coming forward, is used to people trying to time him on the way in, trying to prevent him from doing that. And if you don't have the power to do that, if you can't earn his respect, I think he's going to be in a lot of trouble. But Mikey Garcia is a very, very experienced fighter. He's got a great camp, a great trainer and, father, and he comes from a boxing family. So, they're going to have a game plan that they want to execute, and, it is going to be what it's going to be. I'm not too big on this. Again, I'm not too big on this Victor Conte thing. And I think it's an absolutely unnecessary, it was an unnecessary distraction to those guys. But anyway, it is what it is. We'll see what happens when the fight happens. And with that, I'm out. Peace.